Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr and welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now in today's video we have a LD and BT character that I know a lot of people are very excited for, and it's one that we've kind of been saying hold off on your resources because, and I know we've had a few of those lately, but today we're going to be talking about Tidus. Now Tidus's LD and BT are very strong before we go into the video and the details, etc. So I'll just preface everything by saying that. And obviously he comes along with a brand new Lufenia mission as well, one of which is either really easy or really hard depending on who you have available. And so we're going to go and have a look at those as well. So if you'd like to know more about Tidus as well as the event that comes with him, then stay tuned and keep on watching. Before we get started, of course, don't forget to check out all of my social media links down below. Over on Twitch, I am back to my full-time streaming and streaming lots of Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy Counter, and of course, Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia as well. Now, on Friday, I'm actually heading over to Manchester for the first time going out anywhere, realistically, since I've had my vaccinations. So I won't be there in the morning to stream Tidus's event as it goes live. However, I am taking my laptop with me, so with any luck, I'll be able to get everything set up so that I can stream, do my first sort of mobile stream, as it were, using Tidus's event as my way of doing that. So you'll have that to look forward to. Over on Patreon, I do also shout out one of my patrons every time I release any video, and today that person is going to be Raelius, who is a big fan of Ash, as you can see on their title card down below. As am I, recently, honestly, because I like using her a lot in Dissidia and re-looking at FF12 a lot recently. I must admit, I think I'm a big fan of Ash too, but if you'd like a title card made just for you by me, just like Raelius has here, as well as lots of other benefits, then perhaps you'd like to consider clicking on the link down below and becoming a patron yourself, and it would be massively appreciated. Don't forget, of course, check out all of the other content creators for Dissidia, as well as all of the other resources that I use, as well as other people, so that you can get more knowledge on the game itself. Okay, so now let's take a look at Tidus and the banners that he comes on and see what the fuss is about when it comes to Tidus's rework LD and BT. So there's actually two banners that come out with this particular event. The first of which doesn't have Tidus's full kit, just his BT, but has Arciela and Seven along for the ride. Now while Seven isn't the most exciting character in the world, and a lot of people didn't pull for her the first time around, and Arciela is a bit of a dark horse character, like a lot of people don't use her that much nowadays. I actually have used her a fair amount since getting her LD, you know, as a nice sort of surprise, and have used a surprising amount due to her ability to prevent enemy brave gains, prevent HP attacks, things like that. This is a pale in comparison to the other banner. It's a decent one. This one is amazing, especially if you don't already have Aerith LD. Because this banner has Tidus's full kit and Aerith's full kit, including her LD, as well as Selfie EX, which is just kind of there for the ride. Now, Aerith LD is still really good. Like, being able to protect your, like, you know, stop the enemy from gaining buffs, make it so that you can't be debuffed, and still adding HP damage and batteries and healing. She's still a really strong support character. So if you didn't get her the first time around, this is a great opportunity for you to get her, because she features on a banner alongside all of Tidus's gear. So what a fantastic bonus to have. So let's take a look at Tidus. Now Tidus gets a rework, first things first. If you haven't used him beforehand, what Tidus's primary function was to be able to take multiple turns in a row using his quick hit, which was only a bravery attack previously, in order to keep up his winning spirit buff, which gave him the plus versions of his attacks, which made quick hit an instant turn, so you'd be able to act straight away afterwards, but again, it was only a bravery attack, so that wasn't that great. And then you'd have slash combo, which was a debuffing attack that inflicted attack, defense, and speed down, and he had AoE damage on his EX attack, and that was kind of it. Now, with Quick Hit, first things first, Quick Hit gets more bravery hits and an HP attack attached to it, which is huge for it, because it's now a 5-hit brave HP attack. It grants Winning Spirit for 3 turns. Now I'm going to go over Winning Spirit in just a second, but this buff is so important to Tidus's flow, the way he plays. You need to be keeping on top of this buff because of the fact that it makes the plus versions of his skills, and with the rework to Winning Spirit itself, it becomes even more important. So the difference is, by having the access to these, like the plus version and the non-plus version. So quick hit is just a high turn rate as opposed to an instant turn rate previous, like with the plus version. And then slash, which is a brave HP attack, 6-hit brave HP attack that inflicts the defense down, attack down, and speed down, becomes a splash damage attack with the with extra bits. And now the buffs that the debuffs that you put on there, as long as you've got his full kit, are silver framed, so they're harder for the enemy to remove. Now, Winning Spirit itself, I'm going to go over because it has been reworked quite substantially. It previously was just a static buff, whereas now it's a stack-based buff where it goes up to a maximum of 3, and every time the player takes a turn, whether with a party member, this goes up by 1, and whenever an enemy takes a turn, it goes back down to 1. So, given that it increases his brave damage and his max brave overflow by 20% as long as it's at 3 stacks, the idea is that obviously Tidus wants to take lots and lots of turns in a row. Not only this, but it actually has, as long as Winning Spirit is up, you trigger an extra attack every time Tidus attacks with anything, which is shot, which is a 2-hit brave HP attack that gets increased to 3 with LD boards. It says 5 here, but this actually comes from his C90 and his Burst Plus when that eventually comes out. Not only that, but with the other bits and pieces, his slash gets 2 extra uses, so it now has 9 uses, and now it does now the debuffs are a bit stronger, and slash combo plus is splash damage. His EX is useful as well. I'm going to go skim over his C65 and come back to that. His EX is basically just an AoE 100% damaging attack that gives him Winning Spirit for 3 turns. So this is kind of your refresh, because while Quick Hit regular grants Winning Spirit, Quick Hit Plus doesn't, and neither does Slash Combo. So basically you have the 3 turns that come from when he enters play, so Energy Rain with its EX Plus gives you Winning Spirit when you enter play for 3 turns, so you can go off nice and quickly, but it's the best way for you to refresh Winning Spirit without you having to use one of your skill uses on regular Quick Hit, because it's just not as good. So that's kind of your main function for Energy Rain from this point onwards. Obviously, when he gets his C90, etc., it becomes a significantly stronger move, but obviously we don't have that right now. It does, however, have a really fast recast rate, so you'll be able to use this pretty frequently. His C65 I'm going to go over now because it is actually very important to his kit. Bear in mind that everything he does is going to trigger the shots. Everything. All of his attacks that deal damage will trigger shots, so he'll get that extra 3-hit brave HP attack at the end of every move that he does. Now, Buff Longer Slash is a 2-hit brave HP attack that is instant turn rate, as is most of Tidus's kit, that extends the duration of any buff he put on himself by 2 turns, including, obviously, Winning Spirit. So this means that you're able to keep that up for a significantly longer portion of time. Now, that's most of his kit gone over. So let's go and have a look at his LD. Now, his LD attack is Slice and Dice. So it's a 6-hit brave HP attack that hits twice. So with AoE damage, split HP, instant turn rate again, and that's, lovely stuff. Inflicts his debuffs as well, so it's kind of a combination of both of his moves. But it also extends his buff by 2 turns, because you've got one from here, and then you've got another from Power Stones as well. Not only that, but you get 2 free ability uses after you use this. So what you'll get from this is you'll get the ability to use Quick Hit Plus twice before you then either use his EX or some other way of extending the Winning Spirit buff. The fact that this extends it as well by 2 turns means that if you wanted to open with it, you could open and have 5 turns of Winning Spirit off the bat. So you could go in for a load of attacks and 2 of your first 2 attacks are free, or you can just keep using it to kind of refresh Winning Spirit over and over again. Now, the other thing that comes out of this is another buff called Blitz Off. This comes from his LD. So what his LD does here will give you the Blitz Off buff, which gives him attack up, HP damage up, max brave overflow, and increases by 1 stack every time shot triggers. So again, very important that Winning Spirit is up, because he only triggers shot while he has it. But every time he does this, he then gets a stack on it up to a maximum of 3. And when he gets 3, the next time he uses shot, it doesn't come out as shot, it comes out as Jet Shot, which is a re-break attack. So if they're already broken, it'll unbreak them and then break them again. 4-hit brave HP attack with 80% splash damage and recovers bravery refund, all that good stuff. and then it consumes the stacks, and then you start going off again. So what this essentially means is every few turns, your follow-up attack will be much stronger, will re-break the enemy, and given the fact that Tidus like takes so many turns in a row, like you thought Tifa was capable of dealing a lot of damage in a short space of time, Tidus is right up there with her in terms of being able to go turn, and just constantly keep the enemy at bay with this onslaught of damage. And we haven't even touched on his burst yet. Like, this is all with just his LD. Like, you get the turn rate, you get the nice debuffs. Like, 50% attack and defense down is not something to sniff at, because he hits really hard as well. And Winning Spirit making his bravery damage go increase with every debuff that they have, it all adds up to a lot of damage in a very short space of time. You'd think with a character like this, they'd have a really selfish burst. No, his burst is pretty damn good. Like, so his burst is your typical sort of, brave HP attack, similar to Cloud's, where he'll do like brave HP, brave HP, brave HP, brave HP multiple times, and then it will do splash damage at the end. And then the burst effect from this is while Winning Spirit is active, for 10 turns this is as well, because it needs to be with any character that takes as many turns as Tidus does, shot triggers twice. So therefore, it's every other turn you're getting Ject Shot, which is really powerful in certain combinations of characters. If you've got a Cloud of Darkness burst friend kind of just sitting there next to Tidus, she will just go off. Or, Cloud of Darkness will just sit there and just keep laser beaming, because the only danger with Cloud of Darkness's BT effect is if they break an enemy, they get to steal the turn. But if Tidus is re-breaking them all the time with Ject Shot, that's not going to happen. And then you could, there's loads of combinations there. With Core you could use, there's so many different characters. Yang is a really good character with Tidus as well as Terra. So there's lots of really cool combinations you can do to churn out a lot of damage very quickly. But like I said, it's not actually that selfish a move either, because it increases party bravery damage up by 50%, the bravery cap up like a lot of bursts do, and also party HP damage by 20%, as long as they're breaking or hitting a broken target. That's really good. Like, to add that on top of what Tidus gets from it, it's really nice. And while I don't think Tidus absolutely has to have his BT to work, he really wants it. Like, he really, really wants it. Especially given that when his C90 and BT Plus come around, he gets even stronger. Like, really, really good. Like, all the stuff he gets, like, his burst gets way more powerful, obviously. His attacks, like, get a lot stronger in general. His follow-up on shot is stronger. His BT effect adds party bravery damage and like, it makes the cap even higher. Tidus is really good. Like, it's really hard to not look at Tidus and go, yeah, I would want that. If anything, the only sort of thing I can think of for Tidus that I'm less keen on is his call abilities. Like, his call abilities aren't terrible, they're not bad, but they, slash combo and slice and dice, it like give you the framed debuffs that Tidus brings along, which also you come into the fight with them with his LD board, which is quite nice considering that his damage increases with every debuff, so that's a really nice thing to add as well. So you'll get those, and then the call ability itself from slice and dice increases your attack, your max brave overflow, and also your HP damage by 10%. It's fine, it's not bad, but I think that honestly, if you're going to be using Tidus, you're going to be using him in your main party. If you want debuffs, go take Faris or something like that. You're not going to be bringing Tidus along for his call abilities. But he likes Faris's call, he likes Amiditelian call, he likes anyone that increases the number of debuffs on the enemy because it makes his damage higher by quite a lot. And then with his armor, of course he has the attack keystone. You're going to give this to him. And the fact that his high armor plus increases his bravery damage limit by 30% is actually quite nice considering the fact that shot is only a 3-hit brave HP attack. So the chances are you're not going to cap damage very often with just shot on its own. Like Ject Shot you might, being an AoE attack that's, got a lot of damage behind it and more bravery hits. But with shot and any of his attacks that don't necessarily do that, especially with his burst attack as well being a single hit brave HP attack that comes out multiple times, the fact that you get 30% increased brave cap on him is actually really good for him. So if you're going for Tidus, and I think a lot of people will, I actually really like his high armor plus, and because he's a character that has such longevity, thanks to his C90, thanks to his his BT plus, all of that, it's definitely never going to be a bad investment to go in with a damage dealer that lasts that long. So now that we've seen why Tidus is as hyped up as he is and why quite so many people want him, let's take a look at the event that comes with him. So the Lufenia fight this time around is going to be against Tunnelers, which we have seen before, and they do some nasty debuffs that take out a lot of your HP through poison effects. But the Lufenia orb for this asks you to use an ability with an instant turn rate, like Tidus, and obviously Tidus can do that a lot. He is not the only one that can do that a lot. Which means that, realistically, the easiest way you're going to have to deal with this particular fight is just to never let them get a turn in the first place. Like, I know it's a bit boring, and I know we've had a lot of missions like that recently with Cloud of Darkness's batch, etc., where delaying them was the way to go. The same kind of applies here, and, like, Tidus is just really good for doing it. I mean, if you don't want to pull for Tidus or can't pull for Tidus, you don't have to have him. Especially if you have Core, because Core in his Reaper's Gale and Reflorescere attacks are instant turn rate. If you have Tifa, you know, she has instant turn attacks through her, through her focus attacks and things like that. She's able to use her instant turn rate. Terra will do very, very well here. Lots of instant turn rate there. Even Cloud of Darkness can be pretty good here. I mean, they don't have as many instant turns, but bear in mind that you can use C65s, call abilities, things like that that are instant turn attacks that will still tick the orb up. And it disappears at 80% and then reappears at 50%. And I've seen teams clear this that didn't actually have all that much towards the orb, but still had enough to get through those points, and then after 50% you'd burst them down, or you'd like using bursts and summons, etc. You know, friend units that do it. You just have to be careful with things like that, and like making sure that they don't get a turn if you want to make the easy way. If you don't want to do it that way, you don't have to. If you wanted to use characters like Cloud of Darkness and Tifa that have instant turns but they'll still get turns, then you have to be very careful of their recast attack. Their recast attack will recover them from break, will cleanse all of your buffs, and then hit an AoE Brave HP attack that can't have its HP damage reduced, and it'll also inflict a poison debuff that stacks, and bear in mind there are 2 of them, so they stack very easily, that can take a lot of your HP away very quickly, especially given that you want to be taking instant turns. And then they have lots of AoE Brave HP attacks, and they're just very unpleasant, and the only thing you have to really worry about, like, they'll put an aura up under 80%, but the only thing I've really noticed from that is that they become launch immune. They do also, however, put up buffs that reduce their bravery, like the bravery damage they can take and things like that, which is why Aerith is a big part of this fight, because she obviously prevents them from gaining that buff, meaning that your damage is going to be that much higher. So as long as you've got ways of getting around enemy buffs or defensive buffs and can take lots of turns in a row, this shouldn't be too difficult for you. And given that we have characters like Tidus, a lot of people are pulling for Tidus, I'll say that now, Core, like, I haven't even touched on how, like, I mentioned it, but I haven't touched on quite how good Tidus is going to be with Core. He's going to be very good with Core, and I'll just say that outright. You know, Tifa, Terra, you can use your Terra Yang combos, your Terra Core combos. There's loads of things you can do. The game is asking you to take loads of turns in a row without letting them get a turn, so just do it. So now, of course, we come to the big question with Tidus: should you be pulling for him? Honestly, I think a very large portion of the community is going to be pulling for Tidus, myself included. He's very hard to recommend against pulling for if you want an easy time with a lot of Lufenia missions. And he has a bright future ahead of him as well. Like, his C90 and BT Plus are very strong. He's not even a completely selfish damage dealer for 2 reasons, 3 even. Like, he has debuffs on his kit, which aren't weak. They're not great, but they're not weak, and they do augment your party's damage by cutting your enemy's defense in half, for example. And now that his Jet Shot has Rebreak in his kit, he's now going to be pushing the enemy turns further away, meaning that other characters can act. And his BT effect, actually quite good in terms of, like, party buffs as well as augmenting himself. So honestly, there's a lot to like about Tidus. Yes, he is a damage dealer. Yes, damage dealers sort of feel like a dime a dozen. But now we're getting to characters that are on par, if not stronger than Tifa, and she's kind of the benchmark for damage dealers, and Tidus definitely hits that benchmark by adding so many different things around his kit. The things I will say about him, he is an instant turn character, like Terra. Like, the whole thing with him is, I want to keep going and going and going and going. And realistically, instant turn characters are just reverse delay characters, let's be honest, because they all add up to the same thing, which is enemies not getting a turn. And there's some players that don't like playing that way. I've encountered a lot of people that think that delay is boring, when instant turn is basically the same thing. So if you don't like that kind of playstyle, then you're probably not going to like Tidus. And, you know, because of managing the winning spirit buff, like, it is paramount to his kit. Everything he does comes off of that buff. The shots come off that buff. His damage potential comes off that buff. Quick hit plus tongue twister comes off of that buff. It's so important to maintain it. And being a 3-turn buff, unless you extend it like early with his LD, you're gonna have to keep on top of it, which kind of makes him feel a bit railroaded. Like, you're not gonna go quick hit plus just for days on end, because you're going to want to use his EX to refresh the buff. You're going to want to extend it with his C65 or his LD. His skill 2 kind of just feels a little bit like it's kind of sat in the background, or if you want to make it so that like your other characters can have turns. But that can also be a good thing. That can also be a good thing. Like, perhaps you don't want to burn all of Tidus' skills really quickly, or you need a character to set something up so that Tidus can go off. It's actually not a bad thing. I'm just saying this as a point of caution for anyone who thinks that, like, Tidus might be a little bit just railroaded. And also, I wouldn't recommend going fully in for his BT on this banner. Go for his LD first. There is another banner on Tidus' batch, which is Setsa's, which is one you're definitely wanting to keep your gems for, because he is really powerful and also features Tidus BT. So try not to burn all of your resources to get the BT right away, but do go and get that LD, because it's really, really good. So last but not least, of course, we have Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and let everyone know whether you would pull on any given banner and why. So once again, a massive thank you goes out to all of my patrons for casting their votes and their comments. And of course, if you'd like to see the full database of comments, then consider becoming a patron yourself as well, because I can only post so many comments during each video. So to go into some of the numbers, of course, it's not going to be much of a shock to anybody, realistically. 57% of people said they were going in with gems, 41% of people said they were going in with more than 100 tickets, 3% of people said no. Now, judging by the only couple of comments I've had that are saying no, I think it comes from a dislike of Tidus more than not actually wanting him, but most people are going to be wanting this character in some fashion or another. Personally, I voted for tickets because I have managed to cap out on tickets again thanks to Divine Brothers, and obviously going forward I'm going to, you know, want to be able to pick more of them up, and I'd rather not use gems if I don't have to, having just pity Cloud of Darkness. And while I have burst tokens available, I am planning on pulling on Setsa later down the line, and I would quite like to get him. Hopefully I can get the burst between those two banners. If not, I'll probably like muster up the BT tokens. I don't want to, because again, I've just done it for Cloud of Darkness, but if I have to, then I will. So going into some of the comments, of course, Agent Kazira says, yes, yes, yes. Though I'm usually very bad with my gems and tickets, I've made absolutely sure there's no way I can miss Tidus. I've set aside a full 75k gems for his LD and have 50 burst tokens at the ready in case I need them. Tidus is a favourite for sure, but he also happens to be completely busted, not only on release, but for months to come. I'm 100% content to skip every banner for the next month, so long as I can get my hands on his LD and BT. There are a lot of really good banners coming up, and while I appreciate the fandom for Tidus here, I would be careful, because not only do we have Setsa coming up, but Yuna's actually really good, and so is Agrius. So there are multiple characters that you are going to want to keep in the back of your mind when spending your resources for Tidus. So again, while I very much appreciate the fandom here, with having the burst tokens, like I said, there is at least one other banner that you may want to consider pulling on if you get the LD early before you spend those burst tokens. Nimbus says 100 plus tickets. LD is a must-have and I'll spend the needed tickets to grab it. I'd love to use Tidus again after a very long while. The LD is most important since we can always token the BT if it doesn't land naturally. Mostly I just take BTs as they come and don't when they don't. I'd like the BT but not going to go hard for anything other than the LD. As a veteran player I have his kit already and him fully built, so I'm hoping to only have to spend less than 200 tickets for it. I mean, if that would have happened to me, if I only had to spend, if I could spend less than 200 tickets and get the LD, I would be happy. If I could spend less than 100, I'd be even happier, but that doesn't happen very often. I think that's a wise thing to do, is to go for the LD and then pick up the BT once his batch is finished, once you've managed to get everything else that you needed. Dog Shootin' says, no, I refuse. Make no mistake, Tidus is good. Even if you have him LD only, his set of Lufenias are a breeze and he himself is very good and very usable into Lufenia Plus. But his shooter is so damn loud and I cannot stand him as a character. So I think the shooter here is referring to the sound that he makes every time he uses his shot command, which is very frequent. So for me, for the challenge and for just being annoying, you couldn't get me to pull for him with a gun to my head. Honestly, I was surprised that this wasn't the only comment that was like this, like towards Tidus. I didn't think people hated him quite that much, but apparently they do. So like, sound off comments below if you did really strongly dislike Tidus and that you will outright not pull for him because you dislike him that strongly. And then finally, Goose says, gems for Tidus. Believe the hype, this guy raises the game on turn stealing DPS. Even if he didn't have crazy personal DPS, rebreak, and a nuts burst aura, as a massive Final Fantasy fan, Final Fantasy X fan, I'd be pitying the ace. Cloud of Darkness, BT, and Tidus is a well-known combo, and Core ought to be fast to have a fantastic friend for him too. For the next few months, this is his story. Yeah. The reason that I like Tidus is the same reason I like Terra. I like characters that open up combos for various different characters, and given that we just got Core and Cloud of Darkness, who are like two of Tidus's like besties, it would be hard to not try and go for Tidus at this point. So that's going to be all for today's video. Thank you all very much for watching. Sound off in the comments below and let me know whether you're planning on pulling for Tidus, or perhaps you're planning on waiting for Setzer first, or Yuna first, or I don't know, maybe there's lots of characters you could be waiting for that you're not pulling on Tidus. Either way, let us all know. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and of course check all of my socials down in the description box below. And hopefully I will see you guys in the next one. So thanks all very much again, and I'll see you soon. Take care.